Very important part of the course. Now, today, we take the next step. We're going to meet the second tool, generic tool for doing statistics. Namely, the one I played. I had a funny story last time with the stone and the sand, but we call it the hypothesis test. It is being loved and hated across the world, but nevertheless, still it is an important tool in statistics when we at least are forced into making decisions, which we are a lot. Motivating example. Part 1, hypothesis test. We're going to have a look at this small example. Again, it's an example put in maybe an engineering world, in a manufacturing business world. We believe now, manufacturing computer screens. Whenever we are manufacturing things, we specify, there's a lot of specification on the products that you as a company are putting on the market. So, for instance, that it uses 83 watts is one such specification. Now, sometimes people may challenge your specifications. And it could also be if you're a Novo Nordisk or Lundbeck and you produce tablets, you specify what is the amount of active substance in each tablet. That's quite important, that the specification on the tablets live up to what they say they are. It can be lethal if it's too much in one direction, and it can be, in a way, lethal in the other direction if there's too little in such tablets. So this is maybe a less stressful example for. So let's stick to computer screens and how much watts they are using. Let us assume, like we did last time, we have a sort of a intermezzo here where we assume knowing the variance of the system, knowing the noise. And of course, I'm going to loosen that up at the end. So today we're going to do the same thing, play around with the normal distribution in the beginning, and then finally we use the t-distribution. That's just to warn you already. Now, someone else wants to check that. It could be the people that you produce your items to, or it could be actually the people out there, the consumers, that look at what you claim of your products. And as I've said previously, in Denmark we don't have that many lawsuits of that kind, but in the US that's a constant and billion-dollar thing, such lawsuits on whether companies live up to what they claim of their products. Here we go again. Let's just give it a second to find the way back. What should we do without the internet? Let's just give it a sec. Did you hear about the ex-Heron event in Holland recently? Go Google that. That's a nice story about social media. A 16-year-old in a nice family in Holland, she was going to have her 16-year-old birthday party. And she forgot to make it a closed group on Facebook. And before she knew of it, 30,000 people signed up for her party. In a little 18,000 inhabitants Dutch village. And the mayors tried to stop it. I mean, taxi companies, bus companies had special offers for going to the event for very cheap. A local media would put out a drone chopper with 24 hours live streaming of the event. They put out, and the people made this ex-Heron commercial for the event with the reference to the American movie of similar name. And finally, a number of thousand people actually showed up and burned down. They had a party, burned down some cars, and had some fight with the police and all. The family went in hide and everything. That's a nice story of what we have gained with the internet. really powerful mechanism. Uncontrollable, apparently. But then again, the world economy has been uncontrollable for many years. So, anyway, back to business. What we're going to look at is we have a truth and someone claims something about the truth and we want to check this claim and we are having to make a decision. Do we believe in the claim or don't we believe in it? So that's the issue here. Do I have sound on everything also? No? You hear me? Even though I'm having some trouble. Let's move on there. Now, let me in a way give you part of the result already. The first part of the exercise sounds: formulate a null and an alternative hypothesis. That's the kind of the terminology that we are going to learn to use now. The thing is, the way we're going to express it here is that, in fact, the claim of the company would be the following. If I may start here, the claim is that if mu is the underlying true watt use of those screens, the company claims that this is no larger than 83 watts, right? And we use the capital H subscript 0. Actually, the alternative, that's the other terminology, the alternative is what the consumers would like to sort of maybe prove, that the use, they would like maybe, if they want to do, the reason why they might spend energy and checking because they have a suspicion that something is wrong here, so they would like to prove the alternative hypothesis that the true watt use is actually above 83 watts. I should say that often in this course we actually refrain ourselves for this way, mostly in this course, I should say, basically exclusively in this course. It's not wrong to write like this. Actually, in some way it can be maybe better understood. However, the way it's usually phrased would be to say, to make the claim of 83, you could say, you make a claim of 83, and below 83 is just even more in favor of what the company is saying in this case. In other cases, it might not be like sort of one-sided like this, right? If it's the example with the pills in Lundbeck, it's very important that the specified level is right on target, and you are not. It shouldn't be too low and it shouldn't be too large. That's a slightly different situation than this situation. In this situation, the real sort of insight in the situation would be that as long as it's 83 or lower, it's okay for the company. That's these two different situations. That's something we're going to have to face now, that we can meet those. Either it's sort of the alternative is like only one-sided, or it's a two-sided thing. We're getting back to that one. Just want to mention it now. This is something that may confuse us throughout, but we'll try not to. The way we put it then is in this way. The company claims 83 watts and the alternative would be larger than 83. This is hypothesis testing. Now we have a bit of general, we'll get back to this example of course, and we're trying to do it with some real numbers. The general way of expressing this comes here. We consider parameter mu, that is, again, it's like the one sample mean situation like we've spent so much time looking at. It's still the same setting, basically. So we have a population, you could say. We have a population that is specified by mu. And in fact, there's also a variance, but for now we believe that we know this variance. And And we're interested in mu, in this case, the true watt use of such computer screens. The company is making a claim saying that this usage, this level is something, 83 in our case, mu naught, mu 0 in a general way of specifying. Of course, when we're going to have to check that, because that's the thing now, we're going to check such a claim by looking at the data. However, the question is, how should we do that? Because we do not expect the data to come out exactly as the claim. It's not like if we tested 10 computer screens and then the result is that they came out on an average with 83.4 watts, then we would say, you're out. We're going to sue you for $1 billion because we have proved that your computer screens are above 83 on average. Hey, then the company would have a good case in the lawsuit afterwards. They would call someone like me and would explain to those trying to get the $1 billion that there's something called variability. And if you take this variability into account, you cannot by any reasonable means claim that observing just a little bit above 83 is by any way a proof of something is wrong, because the hypothesis test says differently. Here it comes. Still a bit abstract. Generally speaking, this is a null hypothesis. Then we can have an alternative hypothesis. I'm repeating myself a little bit, but I don't think that is a bad thing. The alternative hypothesis can either be like this, or it may be one-sided. We choose, that's again some terminology here, some wording that we use. We choose either to reject what the company claims, to reject the null hypothesis, or, that's a difficult word, but it's still used, or we may have to accept what the company claims. If we cannot prove opposite, we have to accept it. So either we reject a claim, a null hypothesis, or we accept it. That's the end of such it's a decision support tool, in a way you could say we're being given here. We have to make a decision. As I said, I was almost going to say that, but then either we have this two-sided situation that would refer to my Lundbeck-Novo example with the pills. If you claim something on the pills, it would be a bad thing if it's not directly on the target. It shouldn't be too low, it shouldn't be too large. That's a two-sided alternative. Other situations calls for a one-sided alternative, like my computer screen example that I'm going to get back to. It could be one like this, where you would want to prove that the true mu is larger. It could turn the other way around, actually, depending on the situation at hand. It's just to say that all three situations occur. This is a rule of thumb. It's actually again some repetition in what I've already shown and said. We do use equal signs in the null. In this course, you may use unequal signs if you want. It can make sense. And then here is, it's kind of, for some in the beginning, maybe it's a bit opposite or of what you might have in mind. But the thing is, the way we put this is in the alternative. We always have what we would like to prove. So here again, as I said, it's the consumers that comes to and want to prove that the company is wrong. Actually, that's the setting. Let me do the analogy first, and then let me go back to the errors we can make. We do have the analogy to actually putting a man into court, right? Going into court. I mean, this is just for helping us in the thinking here. If you are in the court accused of something, then if we should formulate in analogy with what I'm doing here, if we should formulate the null and the alternative hypothesis, they would come the following. The null hypothesis is the innocence, the not guilty situation. That's where we start. That's sort of our basic setting. That the claim is, I'm not guilty. And that is, if you have no proof of nothing else, that is what we have to accept, right? The court puts out the alternative is that you are guilty. And the proof is on that part, right? You have to prove the guiltiness. You have to come up with evidence. Come up with, sometimes actually proofs in a law, in a court of law can be numbers, actually. And as I told you last time with the eels. And but it can be other things, of course, than pure empirical evidence. Now, stepping one slide back. When we do decisions like this, there are two possible decisions and two possible errors we can make. The intelligent part of this whole business is that we are going to control the level or the risk of making errors, right? That is where we're going to be intelligent about this. We're going to use probability theory to be able to control the risk in our decisions. We cannot remove the risks. We cannot be in 0 or 100%, but we can be clear and open about what the risks are. That's the part of it. Statistics cannot remove the randomness of the world or the uncertainty of the world, but we can give the tools to face it openly and realizing what the risks of what we're doing are. Now, one of the risks that is very important to control is that in general terms, I put like this. We call it a type 1 risk. This is a terminology used globally, a type 1 risk and a type 2 risk. It's not just my slide and our book. It's used throughout globally, that type 1, type 2 risks in terms when we do statistics. The type 1 risk is the risk of actually claiming a guy guilty even though he's not, right? Claiming that the company is wrong on their, getting to the conclusion that the company is wrong in their claim of their specification, even though that they are actually right. Finding a new cancer treatment, but deciding that this cancer treatment works better than another treatment. And in a situation where if you really had full information, you would realize this is not the case. The treatment is not better than the other one. That's a type 1 error. And there is a risk of making this error when we look at numbers. We call this risk alpha. And of course, we want this risk to be low, right? We don't want to put a man into jail if he's not guilty. In the Danish system, it's claimed that this alpha should be 0. I guess in practice, probably it's not 0, but we hope it's very, very low, that you would never be able to put into jail if it's not without any doubt proven that you are guilty. And again, putting this into words specifically, the type 1 error here would be that you actually you reject the claim of being innocent, you reject the claim of being not guilty, that is, that you decide he is guilty even though he was not. That's the alpha risk, the type 1 risk. The other risk, let's take it here. I mean, the good news is you can only do one mistake at a time. So if you decide to claim someone guilty that you found something, you may make a type 1 error, right? But, and in the other, if you decide you have to accept the claim, you have to accept the null, then you might make a type 2 error. Maybe you shouldn't have accepted the null, right? Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe the man is actually guilty. But you accept the fact that he is innocent. That's a type 2 risk. It's more difficult to control, actually. Okay, this was the second part, the general part. Let's go more practical now.